All right, special edition morning brew. A little something extra as the Bruins have been off for a couple of days right now, but they get going at it Thursday night. They're back in New York. Hopefully, they don't have to start paying New York taxes, although kind of expensive in Mass as it is. Bruins and Islanders, and then Bruins and Rangers as well coming up. But Razor, we got a special guest coming on. A couple of minutes. The great Eddie Olczyk, who was just with the Bruins in Lake Tahoe, watching the game against Philadelphia, also involved in that first game on Saturday against Colorado in Vegas. Before we get to Eddie O to talk Bruins and some other things, want to touch on the Bruins situation right now. We knew injuries were going to come. We knew that. But Jeremy Lauzon out of the lineup. Played a shift and about 3 seconds to begin. Fractured wrist, at least 4 weeks, probably closer to 6 weeks that he'll be out. I'm going to try and find the positive here. At least he can keep skating in a couple of weeks. His legs will be all right. Much better than a lower body injury, right? But this is a big loss for the Bruins, given what Lauzon have been able to do. How do you think they're going to be without Lauzon?
It's a big loss. It hurts his development a little bit as well on a personal level. To miss 4 weeks as a young guy. The league, the game will be much faster when he comes back in those 4 weeks. But to the Bruins' dilemma, he's been playing top pair defenseman minutes. He's been with Charlie McAvoy throughout the first quarter of the season, and he's been a big part of the success Charlie's had as well, being able to be there and be a good partner. So it's a tough loss. We knew this team was going to go through that. We know all teams are going to go through that and lose important pieces throughout the year. Good news is, like you said, and I think it's a really important part, is that he can keep his conditioning up. So when the time comes, he can jump back in. It's not like he's going to need a few games of conditioning. He's going to have a timing issue, but he can get work in practice under the guise of the training staff in proper ways.
The good news as well is that Jakub Zboril, or Jake, is coming back. He missed a couple of games. He looked good at practice. I was there on Wednesday. Seems to be all right. So he is going to come back in. And while he's not a veteran, he at least this year was playing a good amount of minutes. Now he's going to find his role elevated because it looks like Vakanainen, who we'll touch on in a moment as well, but Vakanainen looks like he's going to play with McAvoy. That means Carlo will get Zboril, and it looks like John Moore and Connor Clifton. So the importance of getting Jakub Zboril back, I think it's, it means that the Bruins don't have to scramble to, and find another player. They get a guy who has been in. It's also, by the way, a big loss not having Kevin Miller still. And that's concerning to me. So the importance of getting Zboril back to you, what is that?
That, for me, it's the scramble you just talked about. To bring another new body in. You don't want to, you'd rather not when you're already down a few men already, to be able to have Zboril come back in, who seems to be very confident with his game. He will be able to fit in, even though he hasn't played directly with Carlo. They've been out there. I'm sure they've mixed over shifts. I'm sure they've talked on the bench together. They will have a good rapport. It's not like bringing somebody in from Providence or from the taxi squad who hasn't played, where Carlo's getting them up to speed with how he wants them to play, what their cue words are going to be. Zboril's heard all that, deals with all that, knows all that. So there's a comfort level there. So for me, as much as it is Zboril's talent and his ability to move the puck and skate, I think it's the scramble that's the biggest thing for him getting back in the lineup.
We know that the Islanders have given the Bruins fits with their forecheck when they have been able to establish it below the goal line. Are you confident enough in this D crew, as you look at the six of them, that they can handle it come Thursday night?
Well, they have no choice. That's
diplomatic.
Yeah. They need a lot of help from their forwards as well. They're going to need help from the centerman getting down low, getting in on it, and doing a better job. I suppose if you look at it, I shouldn't have confidence because they haven't been able to do it against this team. But look for McAvoy to play bigger minutes than he has the last couple times going in there. The both times they went into Long Island, they were playing back-to-back nights. They had been on the road for 3 or 4 days prior. So that gives me the confidence they're fresh. They've had 4 days off. They're going in the night before.
Yeah.
They should be able to move their feet a little bit more, and mentally they should be a little bit sharper as well.
But the one thing that does concern me, Vakanainen, while he played what I would call a very efficient, I'd call it a pretty calm game, the outdoor game. I don't want to say that's not real hockey. That's different than what we're going to see against the Islanders. It just is the outdoor game, the event, right? And all that.
Yeah, his eyes are going to be wide open in this first period. And I'm sure they're all telling him that wasn't what an NHL,
Right.
like the coaching staff, hey, this is what this is going to look like, and showing him a lot of video, getting him prepared in practice. But yes, that first shift against Kazikas, Martin, Clutterbuck is going to open his eyes much bigger than what he saw in Tahoe.
Speaking of video, you know that Barry Trotz and his staff are showing his kids, his team, video of the Bruins D again, reminding them what to do. And they're gonna target certain guys, and Vakanainen will be one of them, especially if he's out there an awful lot with Charlie McAvoy. So those are all things to look for. I really hope Kevin Miller is okay with his knee. Hope that it's just a short, real short-term thing. Let's hope that Lausanne is just, they're saying they're reevaluating it 4 weeks. That says to me, if it's healed all right, he's got still another 10 days to 2 weeks to come back from that. Let's hope that that's just what it is. The Bruins need to get healthy, but we knew that this was possibly going to happen because it's happening to every team. All right, let's set this up real quick. Eddie Olczyk coming up. Played in the National Hockey League forever, played with the Chicago Blackhawks, actually 2 times, long time, Toronto Maple Leaf, Winnipeg Jet, New York Ranger for a bit too. But everybody knows him as the lead analyst with the NBC Sports Network, as he is the man that is, was with Doc Emmerich. Now it looks like with Mike Tirico, John Forsland, Kenny Albert, etc. But we have an opportunity to bring in Eddie Olczyk, because he's out there in Lake Tahoe, the Bruins and the Flyers, looking at the outdoor game and dealing with what was a very unique experience. So without further ado, here's Eddie O. All right, so here on Morning Brew, we don't want to not say that this isn't about anything not Bruins related, but we're going to bring in some non-Bruins people as the one and only Eddie Olczyk. Edzo joins the show coming off a very fresh, and may I say, you were as agile on your feet, Eddie. Saturday, you were like Gregory Hines, tap dancing for a long time out there, fresh off the outdoor games. First of all, Eddie Olczyk, thank you for joining us here on Morning Brew. How you doing?
Hey, Billy, Razor, nice to be with you guys. Hope you're healthy. All of your viewers and listeners are as well. And, what a crazy world we're all living in. And, we were trying to navigate, in all due respect to the real world that's going on out there, and to try to bring a little levity and entertainment to everybody being out in Lake Tahoe for the 2 outdoor games. And yeah, Saturday was a marathon, but Sunday was pretty special. It was, I think it was everything that the league and us at NBC probably would have liked, where you could get a full complement of really the backdrop and the scenery, and it was great hockey, even with a little bit of a pothole on Saturday afternoon and the delay. But it's good to be with you guys, and thanks for having me.
Eddie, listen, I'm a huge proponent of the league. I am not looking at all to bash them or anything. Yeah. The funny thing is, I think we can all admit, Razor and I talked about it, you could have thought about the Sun a little bit more if you're the league for that first game. And I understand, I'm being a bit of a smart aleck here, but I'm also being like, there is a thing like it's Tahoe, and I think they're going to learn from it, right? I mean, they're going to learn.
Look at, we've had lots of malfunctions in indoor stadiums, and we've had problems at certain times in all professional sports, not the National Hockey League. And I think that there were a lot of talks behind the scenes from what I understand, and knowing that, you are going up against Mother Nature, and let me be PC here, Mother and Father Nature. I don't want to get people upset with me, but when you're going to play a game, regardless of where it is, we had a game in Washington, D.C. a bunch of years, a Winter Classic, where the Blackhawks and Capitals were playing, where it was delayed a bit and what have you. So, would it have been advantageous to just have both games at 5:20 local and play at 8:20? But again, TV dictates a lot, and it was supposed to be overcast. Look at, guys, about an hour and a half before, and again, it really doesn't matter, but an hour and a half before, it was pitch black and it was snowing like what. So if we could have started the game at 10 a.m. and be able to do it, great. But look, I think the league got it right because the playing surface just became unsafe. And to postpone it as long as they did, and to allow the players to go back and and just kind of rest up, and I kind of related to on our broadcast working with Mike Tirico and Brian Boucher was, look at, like, you just played a first period, but as a player, and Razor, you could speak to this, in the National Hockey League, it's almost like, okay, we just had our morning skate, but we played a game and it was the first period. So now we go back, we eat, we rest, we go back, and then we just, we play another game that happens to be 2 periods. So I think for the players, it really wasn't that big of a deal, but coming back, the ice was great that night. And I think as the game went on between the Flyers and Bruins, the ice got better and better as the day got longer. So look at, live and learn. But look at, when you can get as many people that watched, especially on on Sunday. I mean, tuning in early on Saturday to see the whole show, the league has certainly found something there, and it's never gonna. We hope it's perfect, but we know that life isn't. So we'll live and learn. But it was great to be a very small part of it on the broadcast side.
To that point, that delay, I played a game in the Nassau Coliseum where the Zamboni stalled 5 feet in front of the crease. And that was a 2-hour delay, and we got it in, and as you can imagine, it was a 0-0 tie. So it does happen indoors as well. I'm curious, the ice is, bad ice is good ice for goaltenders.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you being there, what it was like that first period on Sunday with the vision. Was it the glare as bad as it looked on TV, or was it okay?
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I mean, just to paint a picture for people that maybe didn't see, our vantage point, our broadcast vantage point was right along the glass in the Bruins zone, and we were probably, I was positioned socially distanced away from Mike Tirico. I was probably 6 feet inside the Bruins zone from the blue line in, and then Mike Tirico was probably 6 feet on the other side of the blue line. But any time that I would look from Tuukka down to Carter Hart. I mean, I did it one time, Razor and Billy, and I was like, whoa, and I'm like, I couldn't even tell the colors of the jerseys of who was what because you just got blinded by it. And I think Brad Marchand said it too, right? Like on that 2-on-1, 40 seconds into the game, he said he didn't even know where Carter, I think he said, he didn't even know where Carter Hart was. He was just like, I'm just going to pass this over to Pasta, and, he's going to put it in the back of the net. So, I mean, it was challenging. I thought maybe, and we did delay the game, I think maybe 10 or 12 minutes. But I thought if it would have been delayed any more, I thought it might have been absolutely just perfect where, there was no, no glare or anything. But as the game went on, and we showed a couple of the pictures. It's more than a game; it's an event for us at NBC. But once that sun was going down, it was pretty amazing. And like I said, it was just the ice. The ice seemed very good. I mean, I didn't get a chance to talk to any players, and certainly it seemed to be very good for the Bruins with being able to put 7 goals in there. So it was a lot of fun to do a night game. I guess an afternoon game, a night game, and a twilight game. So we got a little bit of everything.
Maybe 3 invoices, Eddie, instead of just 2. Hey.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening.
To your point about the ice being pretty good, in fact, Razor and I are working Thursday's game together for the Bruins. And we're going to talk about plays that were made on that ice, because we're always talking about the goals that are scored, but plays that were made.
Right.
It's a hockey term for saying we're going to look inside the passes, so to speak. And they did make some really good ones. Kind of a generic question here, but or general question, but 1 or 2 thoughts on what you think of the Boston Bruins this year, what you've seen so far, and now having had a chance to see them live again.
Yeah, I told somebody earlier today, I mean, they're in my top 3 in the entire National Hockey League, and I would have them number 1 in the Eastern Conference, Billy and Razor. I did say in the broadcast the other day, we happened to be, again, we were killing the clock prior to the game, and we showed the great Cam Neely. We saw Donnie Sweeney, and we were just kind of talking about the youngness on the back end and the changeover for the Bruins, and it's been well documented, and rightfully so. I mean, you lose Big Z and you lose Torrey Krug. I mean, that's a lot of veteranism on the back end, and it's tough enough to play with young defensemen in the National Hockey League, but take it a step further, and you guys know this, to get to the playoffs and to win a Stanley Cup. Like experience is gonna matter at some point, and I had just mentioned that look at I know they're banged up a little bit right now, and you got some young guys there, but I kind of thought that, the one need that I see would be a veteran guy on the back end, maybe somebody that can come in and be a 5'6" or a 6'7", just to have enough experience back there that a guy. And I just threw out Mark Stahl's name because that was the first guy I thought of that contract expiring, has been to the Stanley Cup Finals, he's played a million games in the league, big left-handed body. I just whatever. And then all of a sudden our terrific crew at NBC, there's Donnie, and Donnie was on the blower there. He was punching and thing, and it was perfect. I said, well, maybe he's talking to Stevie Yzerman. I don't, maybe he's trying to make a deal right now. Not that he would be listening to me, but look, I just think that I think the Bruins have every component now. Again, you want to start nitpicking. I mentioned Jake DeBrusk in particular on our in the pregame and on Ice Live is. Like they need Jake to find the back of the net. Like, you got to take some pressure off the big line. Like, Bergeron and Marchand and Pastrnak, I mean, they're going to get theirs. But as you guys know, the ice gets a little smaller. The rink shrinks come playoff time, and you're going to need that depth, right? You're going to need Coyle and Smith and DeBrusk and, Krejci, when eventually when he would come back. I mean, you're going to need those guys to be able to help out. So if those guys can get to that level, I look at the Bruins as being a real dangerous team. And I've seen not everybody in person, Billy and Razor, and that's how I like to really, again, it's different because I'm doing some games from home, I'm doing games in buildings, but I really like to get a real good sense of teams in person, see how they are away from the puck, and I've seen a couple of Bruin games now, and I just sit there and go, wow, like if they can find, Richie's played really well after having a tough time in the bubble last year. Like I remember him taking a couple of not so good penalties. I guess I'll just be PC on that. Like he took some bad penalties in the playoffs, and
they're off.
But he's found his game. He's probably got a boatload of confidence. He's on a number one power play. He stands in front. He digs for pucks. He does a lot of those things. But I think the Bruins are pretty darn special. So if they can stay healthy, hockey healthy, and stay away from the pandemic, be interesting to see what Donnie does come trade deadline. But I think that they're one of the top 3 teams in the league. I did say Colorado was the best team in the National Hockey League, full disclosure, before the start of the season. I feel that moving forward, and they're probably going to have to go through Vegas, or Vegas is going to have to go through them. And oh, by the way, somebody's probably going to have to beat St. Louis in order to get to one of those 2 teams. So there's going to be a couple of pissed off franchises and pissed off fan bases, because that's a pretty salty division out in the West with St. Louis, Vegas, and Colorado. But long-winded. I think the Bruins right now, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, they're the team to beat in, I say the Eastern Conference, but whoever it is, I just think that they're one of those teams that has the ability to be able to get out of the Final Four and get to the Stanley Cup Final.
You brought up, Eddie, you brought up Cam, you brought up Don Sweeney, a couple guys you played against on the other side of original 6 teams, whether it was Chicago, Toronto, Rangers. I remember you as a Winnipeg Jet growing up. That was watching you hockey night in Canada. But any good Bruins stories coming into the Garden or in the old Chicago Stadium, Maple Leaf Gardens, facing off against guys like Cam and Ray and Donnie?
I'm much smarter than I look. I knew when 8 was on the ice. I just tried to stay the hell away from him. I mean, Cam Neely. He just had that presence, right? Like even coming out and being proud to say is, I followed all hockey, even though Billy and I Chicago guys and growing up and knowing the Blackhawks, but I knew who Terry O'Reilly was, right? Like I knew who Stan Jonathan was. I knew who Peter McNabb was, Wayne Cashman. I knew those guys, and I'm like, man, the Bruins, all they ever do, they just got these big guys that can play, and they'll beat the shit out of you, and and here comes Cam Neely, right? Like they find him from Vancouver, and going up against Cam Neely, it was like you had to bring your hard hat. Like talking about a guy that competed and played the right way. Cam was not, he played with an edge, but he was a hard-nosed, clean hockey player that could score, but also if he wanted to run you into the eighth row, he would. And if he wanted to put you through the glass, he could certainly do that as well. And Donnie was a guy that was very elusive, very smart, very cerebral type of player, can run your power play, can play in a lot of different situations. But any specific story about the Bruins? I think the only one, and I can't remember yesterday, let alone what the hell happened 25 years ago. But I do remember a game that I was playing with Toronto. You mentioned, Razor, the Maple Leafs. You guys would have to go back and look at it. Maybe you can follow up the next time you do the show. But I think we were trailing the Bruins maybe 5-1 going into the third period. And we came back and beat the Bruins. I think we won like 6-5 or 7-6. I don't remember the year, but like we were down 4 or 5 goals, and somehow, some way, we had the comeback of a lifetime and beat the Bruins. And I'm hoping Mike Milbury was coaching the team at the time. So I could give Mikey a call and go, hey, do you remember that game there? And I could, just be like one of these with the phone. I'd be like, here, beep, 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 But yeah, I remember that game. I remember that game, Razor, where we had a big comeback against the Bruins. I think the great Ray Bourque was playing in that game, which, makes it even more special to think that you could come back against a team like that when you're down that big in the third period. But always enjoyed playing against the Bruins. And look, I was lucky enough to play for 3 original 6 franchises. I mean, Chicago, Toronto, and I was lucky enough to spend some time in New York and win a Stanley Cup in '94. But always enjoyed going to Boston. Always enjoyed playing against the Bruins. And like I said, in my era, there were certain guys I knew when they were on the ice and when they weren't. And felt a little more comfortable when Cam Neely was, watching over there instead of patrolling the right side at the old Boston Garden.
Speaking of the old Boston Garden, the Garden was smaller, the ice surface, just like Chicago Stadium, and just like the Odd in Buffalo.
Yeah.
2-part question, Edzo. Do you wish that we still had those unique rinks? Like baseball stadiums are all different, right? So should hockey arenas be that way? And do you think it was an advantage playing in a smaller rink like Chicago to go into the Boston Garden because of that quirkiness, or did it not matter because it was different?
Yeah, well, if you could see over, I think this is my left shoulder, but you can see my original 6 banner there, right? You can see the original 6 banner there. So, every rink's the same now. It's pretty much the same. And I don't know if that's, good or bad. It's certainly a little bit more fair, I think, for sure, because back in the day, to go from a big ice service in Bloomington, Minnesota, to take on the Minnesota Wild, the Minnesota North Stars, then all of a sudden you're going into the Boston Bruin, or into the Boston Garden, and you're going to the Odd in Buffalo. Different style, you had to have your head on a swivel, much different games, a lot more dumping and chasing. And I always wondered, I'd be interested what you guys thought. I always wondered what it would be like to play in the old Boston Garden or the Chicago Stadium with no red line. Like really, because those buildings never saw, the non-red line, right? Like I just always wondered what that would be like. And back then, again, the rules are different, right? You could hold up, you could hook, you could hold, you could clutch, you could grab. So, you couldn't get as much speed on the forecheck as you do now, where defensemen probably, we probably preserved, probably an average 5.5 years on their life because there was hooking and holding and clutching and grabbing. But it was a different game. Things happen like this. The neutral zone was just, it was snug. And when you got big teams like the Bruins had, us Chicago teams, Billy, you remember, we had guys like former Bruin Al Secord on our team, and you had Ben Wilson. We had some guys there, Kurt Frazier. we had some large, and look, I felt very protected too, by the way, with those guys there. That was a lot of fun. But the game is obviously much different. I think the game's obviously in a great place, but I do miss, I do miss the fisticuffs. I do miss the dislike. Players, everybody knows everybody now. Everybody's on social media. Everybody's on social media, and everybody, it doesn't. Now look there are things that happen in games, and sometimes it gets a little nasty, but like a perfect example, I was working a Chicago Columbus game the other night, and Mark Savard, defenseman for I think it's Mark Savard, isn't it? No, David Savard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Savard runs Patrick Kane into the end boards there, and he got up or he was on his backside and he made like Paul Bunyan, man, and he just slashed him right in the back of the legs. And I was thinking, like, man, that's old time hockey there, right? And I was expected like 20 guys to come piling into the corner, and again, I understand, like, it's a big game. It was a 5-3 game at the time, and I understand it, but like, I miss that dislike in the game. And I know my former partner, the great Doc Emmerich, always would have a little smirk on his face there anytime guys would come together, and you can kind of feel like there was something bubbling. And then Doc had that great saying, well, now let's just see now. We'll just see now. Like, maybe something's going to happen, and he can get going on his notes and get ready to write in a few penalty minutes. But I think the game's in a great place, but I do miss a little bit of the dislike and the intimidation that I think hockey will always, it'll always be a part of, at least my life anyways.
That dislike, it's certainly, and that's the big thing that I taught, playing with the alumni, playing with the guy. They talk about the guys they still hate. That's the first one of the.
You never forget. Razor, you never forget,
no,
right?
A bunch of old elephants, right?
I will say this: the two guys that I mean, till this day, I just like two guys that really just either, whatever, they didn't like me, and that's okay. I mean, look, there are millions of people that don't like me, but when I was playing, two guys that really just, like, for whatever reason, just really kind of whatever, it was Lee Norwood and Harold Schneps.
Oh, Harold Schneps.
Like,
That's
those
great.
two guys here. I think I might have it here. I don't know. Let me grab this here. Oh, here. Yeah, I could just do this. Look at it. So you see that picture back? You see that picture back there? The fighting one there. That's okay. That is a legit picture. I got in a fight with Lee Norwood in a playoff, and it was a regular season game. He was playing for St. Louis, right? So I like to say I don't think there's any video of that. So I definitely won that. I definitely. But we fought, and then as I was going to the penalty box, I put my foot in the penalty box, and the linesman was there, and as he was going by me, he took his hands and pushed me in the back, right? So I lost my balance, and I'm like, son of a. So what did I do? I left the penalty box. We fought again in front of the scorers, the timekeeper at the old Chicago Stadium. Next thing you know, the linesman comes by. I forget who the linesman was. I can't even remember. I don't even remember. And I think Terry Gregson might have been refereeing. I think he goes, hey, kid, you just got 1 game suspension. I'm like, what the hell is that? He left the penalty box. I'm like, Lee Norwood, I can't stand that guy. So, but those two guys, look at, I'm sure they're friendly fellas. I mean, if we would have played together, I mean, we probably would have had a good time. But Harold Schneps and Lee Norwood, man, I knew I was in for. I needed that Titan right behind me there because those games got a little violent. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Those Titans, as we talked before we were on air here, or before we were recording, they never broke. No. I used the blue Titans. Oh my God, it was Paul. You talk about Paul Bunyan. Yeah. You could be Paul Bunyan with those, and legitimately.
Hey, all I know is, again, I tell young hockey players all the time. I say, look at the last time I checked, the record for goals in the NHL in one season, I believe it's still 92. I don't know if that has changed or not. But the guy that scored 92 goals, that was with a wood stick. I just want to let you know. It's not the stick, okay? You don't have to spend $480 on a stick. Just get a nice, get a $49.95 one at like Canadian Tire, or you go to Walmart or whatever, and look at it. If you know how to use it, you might be able to score a few goals. So Gretzky, he did pretty good with the old Titan back in the day.
Oh, did he? Did he ever? Speaking of doing great with his stick, when you watch Patrice Bergeron play, he's old school, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he is. Yeah.
He's one of the last guys with a wood stick. He had a wood stick in 04.
He was.
Yeah, he's one of the last guys. So
you're right.
The old Sherwood, Ray Bork special.
I mean, but is he, Eddie? I mean, one of the best of his generation, and that's not hyperbole. I mean,
100%.
He would. I guess the question is, he'd fit in any generation, wouldn't he?
Yeah, 100%. I've spoken to Patrice a handful of times, in the position of being a broadcaster and being able to travel around and talk to a lot of people. I mean, just really, appreciation for how he goes about his business from afar, right? Like we're not on the inside. Razor, you've been on the inside there. You know what I mean? Like you see guys, and I would look at him, and Billy, you hit it on the head. Like I look at him and go, yeah, he could have played in the early 80s. He could have played in the 70s. He could have played in the early 2000s. Like, I mean, he's that type of player because he's an honest player. He has really high skill level. He's super smart. He knows that, hey, you know what? Maybe this shift, I'm not going to score. Maybe we're not going to generate. But you know what? I'm going to be on the right side of the pile. I'm going to be on the right side of the puck. I'm going to win faceoffs. I'm going to kill penalties. He makes other players better. I don't think there's any doubt he's, again, outside perception. I don't think there's any doubt he has had a huge impact on Brad Marchand. Not only the chemistry that they have on the ice, but I think that he is. Look at I think Brad has become one of those type of players where you start talking about all around players in the National Hockey League. Like you could argue, like he could be a top 15, top 20 all around player in the entire National Hockey League when you look at points, importance, in role.
Can I ask you something?
What's that?
Let me ask something though.
Yeah.
Let me just to that point. And Razor and I think we talked about this in one of our shows together. I would put Brad Marchand legitimately up there with Ovechkin as the top two left wings in the game, and you could argue that he touches the game more than Ovechkin does with his penalty kill play. And I'm a huge Ovechkin fan.
Yeah.
The guy's a beast. I mean, I'm saying, but give me another left wing that touches the game, so to speak, impacts the game as much.
Yeah, no, look at. I mean, he like I said, all around. Like when I look at all around players. Like what do they do? I mean, there are some guys that are off the charts. Like right now, I mean, Connor McDavid off the charts offensively. Yeah. I mean, like every time he's on the ice, he's going to get a shot or he's going to create a chance. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. But when you look at the complete package in the 200-foot, I mean, he has taken his game to another level this year. And I look at a guy like Nathan McKinnon coming out of the bubble. I looked at him and I just, again, watching all the games and just seeing, again, it was unique. We stopped cold in March. Everybody had 4 or 5 months off, and then you go into the bubble. Some guys responded, some teams didn't. But I looked at that and went, the way that Nathan McKinnon has really played and become a 200-foot player, I looked at Nathan McKinnon and went, you know what? Right now, coming into this season, I was like, that guy to me is the best all-around player in the entire National Hockey League. Now, off to a slow start. He had a pretty good weekend, out in Lake Tahoe. But I would agree with you, Billy. I think that, when you look at Marchand and the impact that he has in all facets of the game, I think there's something to that. I think there's something for that. And look, a couple of years ago, he certainly looked like he was on a verge of maybe going the other way, right? Like, just with the antics and some of the selfish plays that he made. And again, sometimes you got to live and learn, and sometimes you got to learn a hard lesson sometimes. And I think that the Bruins have done a great job with him, in teaching him. And I think, he deserves a lot of credit. I mean, he's still on an edge. He still crosses the line every once in a while, which is great. But I think all of the other stuff that we saw a handful of years ago, to me, I don't see it as much. You guys do because you watch every single shift. But I just think there's been a great maturity. And I wouldn't argue, Billy, with you. I mean, he is an impactful, important player, and the numbers bear that out. Like I look at stats and offense part of it. He's a threat every single time, and that line is pretty special. And you got Pasta over there that can score with the best of them. But I think, as I said the other day in the broadcast, Patrice Bergeron's the guy that really is the straw between those two guys, because he just there. I don't. Does the guy have a bad shift ever? Like, does he ever, make an errant play? Does he ever, Look, I was lucky enough to coach in this league for a short period of time, but having been involved in NHL since 1984, like there are, a great handful of players that you open the door for them, you got a pretty good chance of knowing what the hell you're going to get. And Patrice Bergeron is one of those guys that I coached against, that I watch as a broadcaster, and see and go, you know what? Every time that door opens, either Butchie, my former teammate Bruce Cassidy, either Butch or Claude knows exactly what the hell they're going to get when he goes out on the ice, and that speaks to how great of a player he is, and obviously the right guy to succeed Big Z as the captain of the Bees.
Speaking of Claude, Julian, we'll wrap it up with this. Today, about 3 hours ago, they announced that they were relieving him and Kirk Muller. Those are two big names of their duties. Your take on that, being the former Bruin bench boss, what you think of that move for the Canadiens, and what it says about Marc Bergevin, another teammate, ex-teammate of yours, his expectations for the team this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure who sang the song "The Heat Is On." I don't know if it was Kenny Loggins or somebody, but I'm showing my stripes there with Kenny Loggins reference.
That's a good one.
I know he's saying "This Is It," but whoever's saying "The Heat Is On," maybe Dan Fogelberg or
wasn't
somebody.
that Don Henley? The Heat is on.
Yeah, Don Henley? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay. So the Heat is
Glenn
on.
Fry, one of them.
Yeah, I'm out of this. Hey, guy, I'm out of this one. I don't know.
Okay, that's right. Hold on. I get the early bird special here. Please.
Right. Blue hair special.
Look at the Heat's on. I mean, the Heat was on going into the season, Billy and Razor in Montreal, but now, I mean, forget about it. Like it is an open oven there, man. Like it is absolutely, when you whack Claude Julien and you take out Kirk Muller. Like, look, this is Claude's second time in Montreal, and Kirk Muller was former captain of the Canadiens. Like, okay, like I think Bergie has put his cards on the table, and they got to make the playoffs. Now, when you lose to Ottawa, no disrespect, but when you lose to Ottawa 3 games in a row, I think enough said, right? Like you can't be throwing away points in that Northern Division. Like I know they played really well. I mean, they scored 45 goals against Vancouver in 4 games or whatever it was. Like every time they turned around, they were putting the puck in the back of the net. And then they came back home. Ottawa hadn't won in forever. They beat them there, and then since that time, I think they're 1-6 or 1-7 in the last 8 or whatever it is. And I look at them and. Quite frankly, I don't think that they have the strength at the center ice position. I don't. Mm-hmm. Look at Carey Price. Yeah, I take him. Razor, you'd want him on your team, right? I mean,
all day, every day. Right? Yeah. No
their defense is pretty solid. I mean, Bergie made a great trade with Weber and for Subban. I mean, that was a hell of a trade. But really, the center ice position, Philip Deneau's been their number 1 center, and I mean, he's probably a legit 2.5 to 3 on most teams in the league. So I look at the center ice position being the Achilles heel, and it'd be really interesting to see what happens moving forward. But that's like the as you guys know, that's like the Cowboys or Yankees, right? Like making a move like that in season, like here in the States, or even the Red Sox. All due respect, and so I'm not sure. I don't know if they're guaranteed to make the playoffs. I really don't. Like I thought at the start of the year, my picks were Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver. Those were my 4 teams. Those were my 4 teams. Yeah. I love the addition of Markstrom in Calgary. Now they haven't played to where they should. But a lot of hockey to be played, and you better be able to score 5 goals a game up in Canada.
That's it. You don't need goalies up there.
That might be a little low. Goaltenders' save percentages up there, Razor. They're inflated because of the Canadian dollar, but
yeah. Hey, the oil's going up.
Yeah, so it'll be. I'm really going to be intrigued to watch how that all responds, and or how the Canadians respond. And look they got off to a great start, but. You got Carey Price, so maybe he can go on a roll here and get that team back. But I don't think they're a lock to make the playoffs. I really don't.
Well, it's interesting that you don't think they're a lock to make the playoffs because 2 weeks ago everybody, not you, but a lot of people are saying the greatest team in the National Hockey League, the best team, and I'm like, geez. I know 56 ain't 82 as in the full season, but it's still a lot of hockey to be played. Yeah. So let's chill out.
Yeah, pump the brakes. Just pump the brakes a little bit. And one thing I will add, I know we're tight for time, but the one thing I will say is that it'll be really interesting on do we get 56 games in?
Yeah.
How is it broken down from there? And then 2, the trade deadline. The guys north of the border. I mean, we saw it with the big trade with Dubois and Laine between Columbus and Winnipeg. how is that going to play itself out moving forward as well with, quarantine and getting guys here, and guys are having visa issues or whatever. And I told them, you know what? Enough with the visa. Get a Discover card. It's much easier if you get rid of the visa. But I'm pumped.
And that is a perfect way to finish up with you.
Hey, Billy Razor, if I could, real quick.
Yeah.
Having been an ambassador for Hockey Fights Cancer last hockey season, I want to make everybody aware, being a cancer survivor, stage 3 colon cancer, it's hard to believe I'll be 3 years clean coming up in March, which I really can't believe, and so lucky and blessed is that March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month. So I encourage everybody out there that once you get around that age of 50, colon cancer numbers have been going through the roof over the course of the last 5 years, and I would encourage everybody out there is to make sure you see your medical professional and tell them that you want to make sure that you get checked out, regardless if there's family history, because there was no family history of colon cancer in my family, and I'm hoping that we can continue to send a strong message to people out there. And hey, if you're not feeling good, raise your hand and get in there, and don't think that it's not going to happen to me, because one day I woke up, I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't go number 2 flat out, and I was constipated for 2 days, and the next thing you know, I was having a 6-hour surgery removing a tumor the size of my fist, and they told me that I had stage 3 colon cancer, and I would rather have people go have a colonoscopy. The 2 days of prepping, what? Yeah, it is shitty, literally and figuratively. It is. I mean, it's just the way that it is, but I would rather have you do that than have to go through 6 months of hell, God forbid, if you were ever diagnosed with stage 3, with colon cancer. And I'm hoping that somebody out there will adhere some advice from somebody that had gone through it. And we just want to make people aware, because I know, look at, even in the world we're living in, we still got to live and take care of ourselves in this COVID-19 pandemic. So again, it's it's Colon Cancer Awareness Month in March, and I encourage everybody out there to make sure they're taking care of themselves and their loved ones, and don't put it off, please, because it's a tough battle. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to plug that message.
Listen, Eddie, 2 things. One, I'm pretty, on my health, meaning I try to do it. But because of what you went through, I went in last year. I'm not BSing you. I'm 50, well, now 51. Yeah. But I went in and had to put it off one time because of COVID, but went and got it done. Thank God, all good. The other thing is about early detection. Yeah. Fortunately, but unfortunately, my wife ended up finding out during the pandemic she had breast cancer. Mm-hmm. Thank God it was early. Yeah. It's not, but the point is, go. Test, whether it's breast cancer, colon cancer, do what they tell you to do. Yeah.
And I think, you know what, Billy, and if I can, again, I know you guys are pressed for time, and Razor, and thanks for this, but I think it's important. And look at this is kind of, my goal and my agenda in life is to talk about what I went through, and look at it. It tested my will to live when I was going through 6 months of chemotherapy. I would get it every 2 weeks, and I'd get it for 48 hours, and I was scared. I mean, I don't want to die. I was worried. I was worried for my family. I was worried for my kids. I became a grandfather for the first time in the summer and back in July. And I mean, I want people to know, and if I can help one person and just maybe open their eyes, or, not scare them into going to get checked out. But I think especially for us guys, like I said, cancer, regardless of what it is, Billy, and I wish your wife well, and prayers your way, and it doesn't discriminate. But if you're not feeling well, you got to raise your hand and have courage and go, you know what, I need help, I need guidance. It's okay to ask questions. If something is not right, if you have pain, if you're not going to the bathroom properly, these are hard discussions to have, but they're important, because it could save your life. It could save a family member's life. And like I said, for me, I don't know. They asked me one last thing. They asked me before I couldn't go to the bathroom. They said, well, have you ever had any problems going to the bathroom? Have you ever had any blood in your stools? And I said, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm an old hockey player. I just go to the bathroom, do what I need to do, and I leave. I don't look, right? Now I'm saying this in all honesty, is that maybe I would have seen something maybe 2 or 3 years earlier, maybe there might have been a sign where I would have like, oh man, that's not normal, right? And those are the things that, hey, the more people that know and there's transparency and honesty, is that maybe we can save somebody. Early detection, as you mentioned, Billy, regardless of what it is, and me, it happened to be colon cancer, is that, that we can help somebody out there. So,
Yep.
Hey, we're all day to day in the big picture. Look, when Butchie says, yeah, Kevin Miller, yeah, he's day to day. This guy's day to day. Well, I always say now, like, look, in the big picture, we're all day to day, are we not? Like, really, like in the big picture, we understand. But I really enjoyed being with you guys, and thanks for going a little bit long. But
all good, Eddie.
hey, you know what? Like I said, I couldn't be more proud of the initiative of the National Hockey League of fighting cancer, and I hope I'm around when it says hockey beats cancer, and we got the NHL logo right here, and the league has done an amazing job, and couldn't be more proud to be a part of that initiative with the league.
Well, we're
Amazing
thankful
story,
that,
amazing message. Yeah.
yes, it's great, and we are thankful that you battled as hard as that Titan behind you. And you weren't one of
That's right.
you weren't one of those new composite sticks that breaks when you think of taking a shot.
Little too light for this old timer, and as we like to say here in Chicago, wood is good.
Yes. The great Edzo, Eddie Olczyk. Go pick a good horse today, will you? Go pick a good race.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to joining us here on Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. A lot of fun. And we hope, by the way, I hope I get to see you in June and into July, because that means the Bruins are making another run.
I think you will see me. Guys, stay safe, and all the best to you guys and your family. Stay safe. Thanks for having me.
See you, Edzo.
Thanks, Eddie.